WWE 2K20 was not only the worst wrestling game, but also the worst game in general. There was just so much wrong with it, and despite the number of patches 2K Sports did to try and fix most of the issues, the damage was already done. Not physically, but emotionally too. I guess you can call it emotional damage. I really love wrestling games, and playing through 2K20 was heartbreaking for me. So when I heard the announcement of WWE 2K22 was being released, my hype levels were really low. I was burned out before, and I thought getting this game would have done the same thing. But as I was walking along and seeing the cover stare at me, just like an addiction, I could not avoid it any longer and decided to try it out. And plus, I have stated that this is 2K Sports' final chance to get me hooked in their wrestling games, otherwise I won't be buying any more of their products. And trust me, I am a man of my word, I will literally do it. Let's just get this out of the way. Comparing this game to WWE 2K20 is automatically a masterpiece. There is zero debate on that. So, what do I think about WWE 2K22 as a whole? Do I actually enjoy playing that game? Well, I guess there's only one way to find out. Firstly, we'll discuss the game modes within WWE 2K22, followed by the gameplay, and continue our regular program from there. First things first, 2K Showcase. Since Rey Mysterio is on the front cover, it makes sense to start with him. It's just what you expect from Showcase. You play all the matches while completing objectives. I'll be honest, I don't like this Showcase mode. For starters, there are a few matches missing here, like Rey vs Eddie at SummerSlam 2005, Rey vs Angle at SummerSlam 2002, Rey vs John Morrison for the Intercontinental title at an episode on SmackDown, and hell, there's even no Rey vs Angle vs Orton at WrestleMania 22. Rey's most iconic win and the match that made him a star is not included. Surely they could have added a few more matches or even replaced one of them for Rey vs Grand Metalik on an episode of Raw. And plus, there's way too many objectives in a single match, which can make things complicated and dragging a match on way longer than it should. But what I really hate is the cutscenes. During a cutscene, they switch from an in-game cutscene to a small scene from the real match itself. Yeah, the transition is perhaps cool, but to me, I see it as lazy design from my point of view, as I felt like they didn't want to edit the whole cutscene in a video game and decided to grab some footage from the actual match and place it on there. And again, this begs the question to why should I go through these matches where I can just simply watch it on the WWE Network or on YouTube? So far, we are not onto a good start, but let's keep the ball rolling and see what we can discover. Universe Mode is also here, and one of the newer additions is the ability to play as a single superstar instead of playing the entire show. It's a nice new feature as you can book your fantasy road to WrestleManias and rivalries to take part in as you work your way to being a champion of your respected brand. Other than that, Universe Mode is exactly the same as 6 years ago. The same layout, the same rivalries, the same everything. I can't tell if they added new cutscenes or not because it just looks the same to me. And don't even get me started on my faction. Now, I have been doing my gameplay footage offline, so I couldn't record gameplay on it, but for what I've gathered the information about my faction, I'm glad I'm not enduring it. This type of shit is exactly what I expect from 2K Sports. But, since we're done talking about the game modes, let's move on to... Wait, what? We still have 2 more to talk about? One of them includes General Manager mode? And there's actually no one here and I've been talking to myself this whole time? Oh, fucking sick, bruh! After what feels like a long time ago, GM mode finally makes its comeback. You can select what general manager to play as, or you can create your own character, which is cool. From there, you can choose what brand to play as and take on against. You can add or remove superstars of your choice, and you can choose your superstars to join your brand in the draft. You get a budget of how much you can spend and select your roster to how you see fit. While there is a world and women's title, there's no mid-card or tag team titles, which suck. Another thing that sucks is the number of matches. In one regular show, you only get 3 matches to fill, while the pay-per-view gets 4 matches. It may sound like a minor thing to complain, but comparing this game to SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, that had 7 matches in a single show on GM, it does seem a bit frustrating when you see a lack of matches in 2K22. So, GM mode is very simple. You book your shows and rivalries, you select a venue to help increase the fan base, you can buy certain wrestlers and even jobbers too, and listening to Triple H's objective for the show. And completing that objective will reward you with a special card to use to help boost your roster and get those high ratings to beat your competition. A nice addition to GM mode is the use of social media. Yep. I can't believe I just praised social media. After the show, fans will talk about your show, give you some feedback so you know what to plan ahead and book your next show. Overall, General Manager mode in 2K22 is okay, but definitely not up to par next to previous titles that had GM mode. It was always going to be a trial and error with a few things lacking, and if it is the first glimpse of what to expect, then I will be keeping an eye out for when they release the next wrestling game and see what they can improve on. And finally, we have My Rise, and this is probably the best part about 2K22. It is basically My Career mode, but you don't get any of the cringy storyline from start to finish. What you get is practically season mode, where you can partake in different mini stories. You do create your wrestler and start in the performance center and work your way up, but after that, you can select your own path on what brand to choose, what personality you want to be, and go through the storyline for what the game offers. The stories themselves are pretty interesting and definitely better than what the actual company presents nowadays. Okay, so with all that said, let's finally move on to the actual gameplay side. I will admit, I am a little bit nervous, so here goes nothing. While the graphics MIO is technically the same as usual, but holy damn, the character models look so great. Almost every character is very identical to their real life counterpart. Edge looks phenomenal with his impressive model, The Rock looks great, Seth Rollins with his updated entrance, and Roman Reigns with his music, the pyro, it's all gorgeous. Even though I said the graphics is more of the same, but there are some major improvements in the graphical department, like the titles looking more shiny, the lighting looking amazing at times, and the camera work during entrances being just near to the real show. It's almost insane just thinking about it. In terms of the graphics, they did put in a fair bit of time into it, and it paid off. If only I can say the same when you actually play the game. I will say that the new camera angles are good, and again, it does make you feel like you're witnessing an episode of your favorite TV show. The new HUD icon for each wrestler has also been patched up. There's no reversal limitations, thank fuck, and the only meters there are your signature and your finisher. Simple, but it makes all the difference. However, the gameplay is still the same as before, with being a simulation type of a wrestling game. It does feel a bit more arcade, with the focus being on striking and making use of the fighting mechanics with blocking and dodging this time around. But with each match feeling repetitive, it does get a bit tiring at long playthroughs. Just like with every wrestling game 2K Sports has produced. If you enjoy this type of gameplay, then no worries, you enjoy what you like. I find the gameplay here being fine. Not the worst, but definitely have experienced better. And while there are a couple of glitches, but that is what I expect from a newly released video game, and it is so much bearable to play than 2K20. As for the controls, they can take a while to get used to, but once you understand the layout, you'll be a master of the game, hitting your finisher as you get the 1, 2, 3 victory. However, I'm not a fan of the controls here, as it feels more complicated than simple. Press R2 and square to hit a signature, and press R2 and cross, for example. I honestly would have rather to have changed it to just one button to press. Unfortunately, there are no new match types in this game other than the updated backstage arena. So, if you are keen on the long requested match type like special guest referee, I quit match, a gauntlet match, or even a potential war games match, then you're not going to get that. It does suck though, since they had all the time in the world to develop these kinds of matches, but I suppose we will have to wait till next time. The roster is pretty solid, but very outdated. You have new wrestlers making their debut like Isaiah Swerve Scott and Karrion Kross, but those people have already left WWE due to the 2021 release massacre. And when you go through the roster, it does become apparent that many superstars within the game have already been released, like Braun Strowman, Ember Moon, Kyle O'Reilly, Murphy, and so on. And it's weird that while people like Omos and Commander SDs have been around for a while, but they're nowhere to be seen here. They'll probably be added as DLC, but it's so annoying from my point of view on why even purchasing additional characters that should have been in the game on day one. I will say that the commentary has been up to date and they are better than the previous game, but it is the same commentaries of Michael Cole, Byron Saxton, and Corey Graves. I would have liked to seen Pat McAfee as well as Wade Barrett being included in the game for some commentary, so you can select which commentary team you want in your match, rather than sticking with the same ones. The OST here is again very solid. I enjoyed most of the music here, with the focus being on rock, from Poppy, Machine Gun Kelly, as well as the additions of The Weeknd and Bad Bunny. And finally, to top it off, we have the creation side, and it's just what you already know. You can create a superstar, an arena, a show, and a championship. Create an entrance, however, is not as in-depth as the previous title, and just on a serious note, where is Create a Finisher? I really hope they bring it back sometime in the future. And that was WWE 2K22. There is definitely a lot of feedback to come out of this game. Thank God this game is actually playable for starters. It is really refreshing to play through a game for multiple hours without being a glitch fest or kicking me out of the game entirely. So, as for the game as a whole, it's not that bad. I enjoyed the improved camera angles, my rise is so enjoyable to go through, and the superstar models are a lot better. GM mode is fine for what it is, but could have been a lot more in-depth. Universe mode is just stale now, and while I find that the gameplay is more fast-paced, but seeing the same animations for the moves for around 2, 3, or even 4 years ago, it can be pretty noticeable. But back to the question mentioned earlier. Do I like WWE 2K22? After playing this game for hours, I'm sorta stuck in the middle. Sure, there's a lot of improvements, and with some new added additions, definitely helped the series out so much, but then again, seeing the layout and the overall structure of what the game presents, it's the same formula design that I've seen for years, and one that I am tired of seeing. It reminds me of the Call of Duty series, that the more they do the same game design, the more that it just becomes boring, that will eventually make me grow out of the series to move on to something new. And unfortunately, that is the case here. So with that said, I'll be giving WWE 2K22 a score of 6 out of 10. Now don't worry, a 6 out of 10 is still a solid score. I'll explain more about that in a future video, but one of the more reasons why I did give it a 6 out of 10 is because of the headline of this game. It hits different. This was supposed to be a fresh start, a revamp of the WWE 2K series, and while GM mode and My Rise did sort of make it feel different, but in terms of the gameplay, the menu layout, and just the overall structure of the game, it just feels like the same thing over and over again. So this means that my time with the WWE 2K series has officially come to an end. I am not going to be buying any more WWE 2K games unless if they change things around the next time. But if I can mention something positive about 2K Sports is, at least they actually tried compared to previous titles. But anyways, that's going to wrap up this video. I thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on those notifications so you don't miss any other exclusive content for the future. And as always, my name is Cheese and Crackers. I thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all
next time.